The DHS also claims in their testimony to the legislature that they're going to lose $350 million. The way they come up with $350 million is they say they're going to lose the $200 million funding in 4A funding is what that should be, and $150 million in 4D for a total of $350 million.
Thank you to the chair and to all the representatives in attendance today. I am Michael Strauss. I'm a family law attorney in Lake and Cook County. I'm also vice president of A Safe Place and secretary of the Family Law Section Council of the Illinois State Bar Association, and I happen to also be the co-author of the Illinois State Bar's resolution against this bill. Currently the state of Illinois gets federal funding and grants, and individuals obviously get state aid. There's very real potential for this state to lose federal funding, and I'm talking millions, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars, as well as parents not being eligible for the state aid. This issue has not been addressed by those in favor of this law, and so potentially Illinois loses a lot of money, poor families lose more money, and our state gets less money.
What's in the best interest of the kid is not to worry about how much federal dollars we're going to get for food stamps in this country. It's ridiculous.
There's already litigation on that issue, isn't there, when there was 50-50 for parents?
There is, and I've in speaking with some of the judges in Cook County, they brought up that there's been ungodly amounts of litigation to ensure that the people kept their food stamps, because frankly, it's life or death. Without them, they have a big problem.
So let's make sure that we keep our kids out there. Let's keep the fight on so that we can continue to get food stamps. I want my people off of food stamps. Yeah. What do you mean?
So we question, we have to question ourselves, okay, nobody wants to lose that. Where is this coming from? They haven't been willing to tell us where this is coming from, so we've had to do the research ourselves to figure out what are the federal penalties. What we found is that the only way that you would lose all of your funding for both programs is if you didn't have a 4D program at all. We're not saying get rid of the 4D program. We're just saying bring it back into compliance with congressional intent. Well, then we look at the penalty statutes at the federal level. If it would be wrong to have eligibility standards for 4D, then this is the process that would take place for penalties. It's a 6-step process, according to the federal government. If they find you in violation through an audit, step 1, then step 2, they have to decide if you are not in substantial compliance, because the federal law only requires the state to provide services in 75% of the cases they receive an application for. Who's ever told you that? Then, if they find you not in compliance, the federal government would give the state a whole year corrective action period to say, shape up, change things, don't do this anymore. A whole year. Then after a whole year, if the state had not made those changes, then there would only be a 1 to 2% reduction in the 4A funding. Third year, 2 to 3% reduction in funding. Fourth year, 3 to 5% reduction in 4A funding. Nowhere does it say if they're in violation of the state plan, they're going to lose everything. So we've tried to work with the numbers here, and according to our numbers, if we're saying that the federal government would never come after the state if we implemented eligibility standards for this program, but if they did, the maximum penalty would be $10 million. We're saying that the state can save $100 million a year by removing the unqualified class out of the program. So if you take $100 million minus $10 million penalty at the most, you're still saving $90 million. We say that's worth looking at. We've also done research across the country and looked at many, many states, and we found that if California were to implement eligibility standards, that they would save $1 billion. And nationwide, we could save $8 billion by bringing this program back into compliance with congressional intent. Those are the 2 questions we've reviewed today. Does the federal government allow the state to initiate reform? And will the state lose $350 million if they do so? I like this quote from President Coolidge. Of all forms of government, those administered by agencies are about the least satisfactory. Being irresponsible, they become autocratic. Being autocratic, they resist improvement and change. Unless bureaucracy is constantly resisted, it breaks down representative government and overwhelms democracy. It is the one element in our institutions that set up the pretense of having authority over everybody and being responsible to nobody. We are forcing that responsibility of the 4D program and hope that we can work together with you to figure out fiscally responsible decisions that can be made to put this program back into compliance.